Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now, our next guest is a multi-award-winning actor, comedian, talk show host. So what are we doing here? An outspoken autism campaigner who made headlines for her move from the US to Ireland.
Yes, the iconic Rosie O'Donnell joins us now, as well as I Am CEO Adam Harris. Good morning,
Good morning to you both.
Thanks.
Lovely to have you.
Lovely to see you. We're delighted that you're here and joining us. And we have to ask you, how are you finding Ireland? You're only here since January.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's amazing. It's better than I could have imagined, and I never imagined leaving the United States.
Yeah.
I didn't even have an Irish passport, although my siblings do, because I thought, well, I'm never moving out of the United States. I'm kind of like a stay-home mom kind of person. And but then when the election happened, and you know, it was quite obvious what was going to occur as they put out a book that announced it, Project 2025, I knew that it was time for me and my young autistic child to come here.
And let's talk about that a little bit for people who might not know, because the beef between you and Donald Trump go back to the days of when you were a talk show host comedian. He was a personality.
A reality show. He had The Apprentice,
yeah,
which was all fiction.
Yes.
And a lot of people in America didn't know that it was fiction because they sold him as America's biggest successful businessman, and he had been bankrupt 6 times. And he had lots of charges of sexual abuse against him. And he is, known for lying and for corruption. And he had a charity that he and his family now can never do a charity again in New York because they stole money from children who had cancer.
And this is all fact.
All you need to find out these facts is a computer, people. I am not an investigative journalist. I simply lived there my whole life. And in New York, where he grew up as well, we're around the same age. I'm 63, he's 107. Is that what he is? I'm not sure. But, and so I've known who he was from the get-go.
But a lot of male chat show hosts were saying the same things that you were.
Yes.
But it was just you. You just got under his skin.
And he went crazy in a way that I was shocked. And it's almost 20 years since that show.
And he's still, to this very day,
at the debate, they said to him, "You call women pigs, gross, disgusting, fat, ugly." And he said, "No, only Rosie O'Donnell." To roarious applause and laughter in the audience. And I was at home with my kids watching it going, how do you explain this? You know, luckily it was they were pretty young at the time, but now my youngest is 12. My other ones are in their 20s.
Yeah.
So it's really to protect my 12-year-old that I knew I had to come.
Because let's talk about that. A lot of people said they would leave should Trump become president and all this kind of stuff. You did leave for reasons of safety. What was happening to you in the streets?
Well, it wasn't so much in the streets, but after he won, I was in CVS with my child, and 2 different people, one with a MAGA hat and one a Trump supporter, came over and told me with curse words that their guy won. And said the F word in front of my child, who said, "Why are people cursing at us?" And I said, "Well, remember I told you that there was a guy who was not so nice and he's running for president again? Remember when you were a little baby and he was the president and everything went wrong?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, he's back now." And she said, "So it's time for us to go."
And that's what, because you did stay during his first presidency.
I did, and it was a difficult time for me mentally and emotionally.
Because this has obviously taken a toll on you over these years.
You know, it's something to go from being a kind of known celebrity in America that people liked, that had a lot of accolades, that had a lot of, to despised by half the population. Half the country thinks that he is the new coming of Christ, and half the country sees what's happening, that fascism has taken hold in America, and it's terrifying, not just for America, but for the world.
And you arrived over going, "Do you know what, I'm going to move to Ireland. Sure, it'll be grand. I'll sit down, eat some potatoes, have some whatever."
Keogh's crisps are out there.
Put to work straight away by this young man here, Adam Harris.
I was so happy to have met him. I had heard about him and what a wonderful talent and crusader he is for autism here, and that I didn't know he had autism when we first sat down and we were having dinner or lunch, and I said to him, "So do you also have an autistic child?" And he said, "No, I have autism." And I was stunned. I'm like, you are like the best person to go and send this message out about what's possible and what we need and how to help families like mine and like Adam's with autism.
Because, Adam, we have seen you campaign since you were a teenager. And you did talk about autism in a way that we kind of understood it an awful lot more. You put yourself out there. Your charity is As I Am. There are new reports of 1 in 20 children are being diagnosed with autism. And obviously that's having a knock-on effect for families in their homes, getting services, and in schools, which is something that we have had so many people on recently.
The last couple of weeks on the show,
children
it's been amazing.
Into schools.
It's really horrifying, and I was down at the protest outside Leinster House yesterday.
The sleep out.
The sleep out
to
last
families
night.
at the sleep out that happened last night, and we published yesterday a Same Chance report, which is our annual State of the Community report on autistic life in Ireland that we publish every World Autism Day. 27% of the children represented in that report reported the fact that their child didn't have an appropriate school place. In some instances, that's children without any place. In other instances, it's children who are in the wrong place, who have to travel very long distances from school. Of course, we sometimes talk about this debate as if it's just about access, but we also know from our report yesterday, 70% of families say, based on their experiences, our education system is not inclusive. The reason it was so amazing when someone like Rosie O'Donnell reached out to me, we really need to bring this message out there this April, this World Autism Month. We don't just need awareness, we need acceptance. In our Attitudes to Autism poll published yesterday, 24% of parents said, a representative sample of 1,000 Irish adults, 24% of them said that they would be concerned if their non-autistic child went to school with an autistic child. Counter that with the fact that our community has said that in their experiences school is not inclusive. They have said in their experiences that 79% feel you're more likely to be punished in school if you are autistic. So we really need to move beyond awareness towards acceptance. And it's just amazing to have someone like Rosie who's helping us, I suppose, get the message out there beyond our community about the need to shift attitudes. Those of us who are autistic have to adapt every day to a world not built with us in mind. And all we're looking for is the same chance to live, work and play in the community.
Adam, it's great to have Rosie involved and highlighting it. It's the government's job.
It's absolutely critical. And I think if we talk about the issue of school places in particular, we're not looking for any new rights here. We're not even talking about a piece of legislation. We're talking about a constitutional right that children already have. And yet, as being year on year, we're seeing a failure to vindicate that right. So our message is very, very clear. It's simply unacceptable to have a scenario come September.
You have an in there
Everyone
that most people don't have. Your brother was the Taoiseach, he's the Taoiseach. Do you have these conversations with him? And what is he saying and what is the government going to do?
Well, from our point of view, I focus very much on my own job, and I think I'll talk to anyone who I need to talk to shift attitudes. What we think we have a real problem with in this country is in terms of implementation and in terms of prioritisation. We have fantastic legislation around disability rights. We have fantastic legislation that tells autistic people that we all have all these fundamental rights, and yet we consistently see a failure around implementation. I think we can talk about education, but we also see, for example, in our report yesterday, that a majority of children within our community have had to access their diagnosis privately. We've seen a case that 84% of the children are waiting longer than a year to access services. One of the things we're calling for this April is to place the National Autism Strategy that was published last August on a statutory footing so that it's a permanent change. What we're seeing at present is a huge demographic shift in our community. There's been much discussion around this idea of 1 in 20. We see that as a really positive thing, because what it means is at a much earlier stage in people's lives, we're identifying people's differences, we're connecting them with their tribe, and we have the opportunity to provide people with support. But what we're failing to do is create the systems to meet that demand.
And that is something that we have to adjust to, because for you, Clay, they were diagnosed at 2.5.
Yes, they were very, very verbal. When they were 1, they said, "I've been impaled." And I was like, wait a second, what? And then Frozen was on, and then all of a sudden I hear Olaf, "I've been impaled." So we found out very early that she has echolalia, which is the ability almost to have a tape recorder in your brain. When you hear something once, you can memorize it and then recite it back in the accent you heard it. So it's like a great party trick, you know? But when the kid is 1 or 2 and is kind of quoting whole episodes of Peppa Pig in a British accent, I start to say maybe I should get her tested.
And how are they finding it here now and being here?
They love it here. And in America, it was hard for me to get them to go outside.
Right.
They like staying home. They love their iPad. They're a digital artist. They do voiceovers on cartoons, but they didn't like to go out. Well, I can't keep her home now.
Isn't that great then?
And she loves the pub culture. She loves.
Oh, Lord.
Is
You
that
can't go in a pub if you're a kid. You can't go where they serve alcohol at all.
In the United States, yeah.
She's like, I get to go in here.
Get me the chips.
And she gets the French fries. She watches everyone. She's fascinated.
Is this feeling safer?
It's so much safer.
Is
in
it?
fact, she's with friends walking places now.
Yeah.
And when I was first here and they were telling me where we were looking to stay, to live, great place because she'll be able to take her bike to school. I thought, over my dead body. She is not driving a bike. And now they're able to do that.
Yeah.
And it is such a different culture and such a different feeling of safety for Clay as well as for me.
Yeah.
And Clay can probably do a better Irish accent than that
Was
at
that
this
bad?
stage.
I was going to say, yes.
Not so
Just
good.
have her watch What's a Mountain Time?
What's Mountain Time? Do they know who their mother is? Like, does she... Like, at this stage, have they seen a league of their own?
No.
Like, are they... No!
They don't. None of my children watch any of my films. And I have a son who's 25. And when he was 18, he came home and he said, I went to Jimmy's and they put on this movie and you were like a teenager playing baseball and you sounded like Sylvester Stallone. And I was like, thank you, my son. That's my most favorite film. My famous film. And he goes, yeah, I never saw it. You were like 18? I'm like, I was 30.
They don't know about
A League of Our Own.
You were with Tom
Hanks.
Madonna.
I know, but they, it took my daughter, Vivi, a long time to realize Madonna was Madonna. One day when she was about 12, she said to me, do you mean Mo, who comes over to our house with Lola, is Madonna? I'm like, that's Madonna. She could not believe it.
Because you've had a really long friendship and a good friendship with Madonna all these years.
Yes.
And when Trump, like she said, when Trump started on you, said, don't you start on Rosie, you'll have me to answer with as well.
She's a wonderful, wonderful woman. We both lost our mothers very young. We were both named after our mothers. And I saw her movie, Truth or Dare, the day before Penny Marshall introduced me to her to see if and the first thing I said was, I've lost my mom and I've been to her grave and it's my name on it as well. And from then on, we were like sisters.
Wow.
And she's doing really wonderfully. I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of that she never stops evolving into
and
who
like
she
that
is.
last tour, like
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
It's interesting you say evolving because much like people, like you've got to, Adam, live in this world, as you say, autistic people, like you've evolved so much. Like your career was before an awful lot of people went to TV, we'll say.
It was
like
definitely
Drew
before
Barrymore,
Ian.
all those people.
Yes.
You've gone from the acting, the comedian.
Yes,
to
I
then...
kind of did it backwards. Most people start in radio, then they go to TV, then they go to movies. I kind of started in stand-up, went right to movies, and then went to TV.
And you were called, the Queen of Nice.
Right.
Like
Because at the time, people were being killed on daytime talk shows. Seriously. Geraldo Rivera was getting beat up. And Jenny Jones, they had a contestant who killed another contestant. It was a dangerous afternoon. I remember being a kid coming home, having no mom. My mom died when I was 10, and my Nana lived with us my whole life. And we would watch Merv Griffin and Dinah Shore and Mike Douglas and all these daytime talk shows. And that's what I loved, being able to do that. So when I had my first child, I didn't have a nanny, but I did a movie and I brought my housekeeper with me. And she was watching him. And the second day I came home, I put out my arms and he wouldn't come to me. And so I called my agent and said, you have to get me a job where I can stay home in New York and they said, how about a talk show? I said, great, I'll do Merv Griffin. And that's how it happened.
That was it.
That was it.
I think that relates, an awful lot of women will relate to that, having to leave their children. It's so horrible. We were looking at you there with Tom Cruise, fabulous hair, all those wonderful people that you've gotten to chat with. Is there anything, what else is to do? Are you, like, if we call you on Monday and I can't come
Will you
in
come
sick,
in?
I'm right nearby. It took me 15 minutes. Now, you have to give me 2 days to find an outfit.
Okay.
I've got loads.
There'll be places all over Ireland who'll want to dress Rosie O'Donnell.
I don't want to be like Tommy in a pink wrinkled shirt. I need to present myself a little. I'm an older woman. I'm a mature woman.
She needs a steamer. We need a steamer and an iron.
Exactly.
We
need to talk the walk.
The walk.
Yes, the fifth this
so
weekend.
you're going to be there.
I'm going, and my daughter will as well.
Okay.
So, Autumn, this is the As I Am Same Chance Walk for Autism nationwide.
Nationwide, supported by PTSB. It's an opportunity for people to come out and visibly show their support for removing barriers so autistic people can have the same chance. Also, critically, it supports our charity to raise much needed funds. Since in 2021, we've supported over 11,000 people through our autism information line. And week on week, we support hundreds of people through our group-based support programs for both children and adults. But we want to do so much more. We want to make sure that wherever you are in Ireland, you can access As I Am supports as and when you need them. But we need public support to do that. And April is the opportunity to get out, to register for the Same Chance Walk. Join us in Malahide Castle or in Lockheed Forest Park in Roscommon, or at walks across the country.
And you can find out more about supports As I Am doing so much. Supports at asiam.ie.
So you're going to be at Malahide Castle on...
Yes, I am.
She's bringing Mo.
It's literally down the road from me. I might pop up and say hello to you.
And we'll have Eric Roberts there with us on the day as well.
Who's he now?